some examples, I'll give some concrete examples. So one of the things that we ask about in an assessment for autism is something like repetitive play, right? So did the child play imaginatively and creatively and flexibly, or was their play a little bit more repetitive? And that's one of the things we check off, right? When we're doing interviews about boys, when we're playing with them, we look at how they play. But actually, with girls, we see lots of creativity and imagination and imaginative friends. And so even that's just one example of when we go through the interviews, we start to ask some different questions about how they played. It might be in combination with some repetitive play, but that repetition tends to come out in different ways, like reading the same book over and over, for example, or listening to the same music over and over, or drawing similar pictures. So it's like the essence is still there, but it is manifested in a different way. Another big way that it's different is the socialization. So for many of the girls who we see, they're described as being outgoing or chatty and actually engaging with peers and wanting to engage with peers. But there are a couple of things that we see for young kids, and there was a great study out of a colleague at UCLA did a study where they observed kids on the playground, and boys who went on to have an autism diagnosis were a little bit easier to flag for the staff because they were doing the things that, again, we might expect, not all boys on the spectrum, but we might expect. So playing on their own, or self-isolating, or just maybe doing something a little more repetitively on the playground. The girls, on the other hand, would actually be around other girls, and it would look like she was playing with them. But then when the conversation got maybe a little bit more difficult, or the complexity of the play was a little bit more nuanced, the girl would then sort of, they use the word flit, like flit to the next group and try that out and see how that went. So she was always around girls, but kind of flitting from one to the next and never fully integrated. And parents will confirm that too. Oh, they're on a sports team, and yeah, they played with the girls, but then they never really hung out with them after practice, or they were always the one kind of left out when the girls partnered up. So it looked like they were all together, but there was something a little different where they weren't quite integrated. And we'll do something that's called friendship mapping, where we'll actually ask, because again, teachers will say, oh, she had friends, or she was part of a brownie troop, or she played with them. And then when you actually dig deep and ask the parents, or if the girl's older, ask the girl, usually both, when they actually talk about it, they'll talk about, well, yeah, they were part of that group, but then when the group had a party or did something, they actually didn't invite her, or she always felt like they were having this side conversations in a group chat and she wasn't a part of it. So it's like on the surface looking like there are friendships, but when we actually try to understand the quality of those interactions and relationships, it's a little bit different. And that tends to be more nuanced than what we see for boys. So those are there are actually quite a few examples, but I would say those are two of the examples that come up a lot in our assessments.